Mistulang inilihim ng COMELEC at SMARTMATIC sa AFP at PNP ang delivery ng mga balota.
CF cards na hawak ng BEI.
They're
But
not
my
prepared
God,
for
your
automation.
cards are late.
Well, I don't know what happened there.
Kahapon pa inanunsyo ang pagbawi sa mga memory
Naantala
card na
rin
sanhi
ang
ng
pagpapadala
pagpadala
ng mga balota sa mga lalawigang may pinakamaraming botante, lalo na sa baluarte ng
Where did you get
oposisyon.
those cards, man?
That's my problem, and that's your problem.
Here's an interesting question. Without the Smartmatic automated system, did Aquino III really win the 2010 presidential election? A number of experts and analysts now believe that in his comeback bid for the presidency 7 years ago, former President Joseph Ejercito Estrada may have actually won the 2010 election.
Oh, yes. Definitely there's some issues on the 2010 elections. In fact, our organization, when we were monitoring the results at that time, around 11 before midnight, the lead of the previous incumbent President Aquino was narrowed from 1.3 million to 1 million by the second running President Joseph Estrada. But then there was a news blackout on the results in the website for a good 3 hours. And then by 3 a.m. the following day, here comes the chairman of COMELEC saying that the winner is President Aquino with a landslide victory of about 5 million. When the truth is, how can you say that when there's 3 hours of no reflection of transmission, and that already raises the doubt that anything could happen. And true enough, as a result, the day after, a deluge of complaints started to come out.
It's a possibility. One thing that we are sure, those machines malfunction. In fact, even during the joint congressional canvassing committee hearing, even before the counting, or before the canvassing, and one of the major questions raised there, why do we have 256 million registered voters in our server here in Batasan, when in fact we only have 50 million voters? Another question, what about in PICC? 156 million registered voters, when in fact we only had 50 million voters. The answer of Smartmatic, Cesar Flores, he said, error in application. So they admitted that there's a problem with their canvassing server. That's during the congressional meeting.
A week before the May 10 elections, the COMELEC replaced 76,000 malfunctioning compact flash or CF cards. This took place after the COMELEC discovered errors in the reading of votes during the final testing and sealing of the PCOS machines.
So, come 2010 elections, 1 week before the elections, May 3, there was this final testing and sealing. And it's so unfortunate to know that during the time, we heard a lot of news, horror news about the malfunctioning of the PCOS machines.
Nababawi po ng Smartmatic TIM ang lahat ng mahigit sa 70,000 compact flashcards matapos mawalpak ang pagbibilang ng ilang PCOS machines sa ginawang testing at sealing sa ilang lalawigan kahapon.
At that time, the COMELEC merely said the defective CF cards were due to human error.
Right after the changing of those CF cards, we don't know whether the CF card contained the right program because there was no testing. Because in normal cases, if you change any parameter or any configuration in the computer system, that should be tested first. So they changed the CF cards, but no testing was done.
After the May 2010 polls, the camp of presidential aspirant Joseph Arap Estrada discovered that the election was riddled with what they considered massive marketing and selling of pre-programmed compact flashcards. These CF cards contained instructions for the PCOS machines to read the ballots. The late Ernesto Maceda, Estrada's campaign manager, claimed that brokers for the COMELEC were selling the programs for the PCOS machines for 30 to 50 million pesos each.
Sinabi ko na rin ito sa COMELEC, bakit wala kayong kampanya laban sa mga naglalako ngayon? May maraming naglalako dyan. At ako'y naninindigan, pwede nila akong kasuhan kung hindi totoo ang sinasabi ko. May mga naglalako dyan ng eleksyon. Dati pa. Pero ayaw nilang umaksyon dahil matatamaan ang kanilang authorized dealer.
The Philippine Computer Society filed an administrative and criminal case against the COMELEC and SMARTMATIC officials. Number one, why did you recall those 76,000 CF cards? Why didn't you have any digital signatures? Meaning, you still have to make sure that the system is really secure at that time. So we filed a case before the Ombudsman. That was 2010. Still pending at this time.
So sino ngayon ang may kapasidad na mandaya, magtamper ng CF cards? I accuse directly, si COMELEC lang. At yun ang napakita namin. Pwede mong itamper ang laman ng CF card because nakita namin yan at si COMELEC ang may hawak ng CF cards. Si COMELEC ay may hawak ng kanilang script. At yan ang nakita natin at nagsisinungaling sila sa Senado. That's my experience. Kung may tamper man ng CF cards, si COMELEC lang ang pwedeng gumawa nun.
Mula sa mga deadline na hindi nasunod hanggang sa mga palyadong CF card, lalo tuloy lumalakas ang mga pagdududa na ito'y hindi isang simpleng kahinaan o pagkukulang lamang ng COMELEC at SMARTMATIC.
RA 9369 requires 4 major security locks to safeguard the sanctity of the automated election system. The term source code refers to a human-readable software that was supposed to run SMARTMATIC's PCOS machines and all its equipment for the canvassing of votes. Meanwhile, a review is needed to identify any malicious codes as well as check whether or not the system complies with Philippine election laws.
So if we start, for example, with the source code review, this is done so that the codes that are written by whoever vendor that wins the election system or whoever implements the election system, there is no actual Trojan horse or there are no hidden codes within the code itself.
Section 14 of RA 9369 states that once an AES technology is selected for implementation, the Commission should promptly make the source code of that technology available and open to any interested political party or groups so they can conduct their own review. During the May 2010 elections, the COMELEC failed to give any of the political parties as well as independent groups the source code for review.
No source code review. Why? 3 days before the elections, they showed in media, this is already the source code of the systems. And we're going to bring this to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Normally, source code review lasts at least minimum of 6 months, but to be comprehensive, it should be at least 1 year. And we even told that to the Commission on Elections, 1.5 years before the elections, that they should already be ready.
Citing lack of time and preparation, the COMELEC disregarded the law by not allowing any source code review.
Source code review never happened. Precisely, they don't want to show the source code. That's why the 2010 election, there was some glitches there that revealed that, for example, they can access the results, the counting remotely.
That should be open to the public at some point. But right now, I don't think there'll be enough time to show it anyway.
Section 15 of RA 9369 states, to prevent the use of fake ballots, the COMELEC shall ensure that the necessary safeguards such as barcodes, holograms, color-shifting ink, and microprinting are provided for on the ballot.
We have to ensure that the ballots that are used are authentic. Part of the automated election system law was that they're supposed to use some sort of verification system that the ballot is authentic. And one of the things that they used was the ultraviolet ink. So which means now that the ballot has specific ink markings so that the machine can actually verify whether the ballot is authentic or not.
During the May 2010 elections, the UV mark feature was disabled by COMELEC.
In 2010 also, they were supposed to implement ultraviolet ink as a marker to make sure that the ballots were authenticated. But again, according to COMELEC, there was a mistake in the printing so that the inks, when it was printed on the ballot paper, it actually scattered. So all the ballots that were read by the machine, by the PICOS machine, were actually branded or was categorized as duplicate or as inauthentic machines. What COMELEC did, they disabled that feature, no?
The Voluntary Voting System Guidelines defines voter verification in an automated election system as the confirmation by the voter that all votes were recorded as intended.
The third requirement is a voter verification. So this is so that the voter has a way of verifying whether the machine actually voted the ballots correctly. So this is supposed to be a requirement of the law, and it should have been implemented since the first national AES implementation in 2010.
RA 9369 has a provision on the verification of voters' choices. Namely, the automated election system must provide the voter a system of verification to find out whether or not the machine actually registered the correct choice of the voter. When the COMELEC selected SMARTMATIC to provide the PICOS machines in the Philippine elections of 2010, the public was given the impression that the PICOS machines were capable of providing the verification of voters' choices feature.
What they actually showed in the PICOS machines, if you remember, if you voted in 2010 and 2013, it was just a screen saying, congratulations. But you never had a way of verifying whether your vote accurately counted by the machine or not.
COMELEC's reason for disabling this security measure was that this feature was time-consuming. So, COMELEC conveniently decided to ignore the law and disable the third security feature. Lastly, in order to prevent unauthorized results from being transmitted, all election returns must possess a digital signature. Section 22 of RA 9369 states that each copy of the printed election returns shall bear the appropriate control marks to determine the time and place of printing. Each copy shall be signed and thumb-marked by all the members of the Board of Election Inspectors as well as the poll watchers present.
The digital signature is very important because you have to make sure that the files that are transmitted are actually authenticated files. So that's how you authenticate now the files that are being sent from the machines to the Canvas servers or the consolidation servers. You have to make sure that it's authentic. And the only way it can be authentic is that if it uses a digital signature.
In 2010, the COMELEC made another surprising change in the implementation of the digital signature. Cybersecurity specialist Professor Edmundo Casino explains.
And in the election of 2010 and again in 2013, there were specific instructions under the COMELEC Resolution 8786 in 2010 and then in 9640, I believe in 2013, that telling the Board of Election Inspectors not to use the digital signature when it is actually required by law. Because under the law, the letter of the law says only electronically transmitted results and digitally signed shall be used as the basis for counting and proclaiming the winner. And as a result, because there were no electronic signature, that compromises the integrity and the authenticity of the results being transmitted.
The COMELEC once again bypassed the law by limiting the digital signing of the election returns to the chairman of the Board of Election Inspectors instead of all members of the BEI as defined by Section 22 of RA 9369.
One of the risks that we told them is that there should be digital signatures in place, meaning electronic transmission should be secure. The test certification should be rigid. And all of the provisions of the law, we explain it to them one by one. But eventually, they didn't listen.
So why did the COMELEC remove all 4 security locks prior to the 2010 elections?
It's like building a house, but you're not assured that your house is actually secure. Okay? Because you never reviewed the blueprint of the house, which is the source code review. For the ballot verification, you never know whether the keys that were used or the locks that were used were actually authentic or not, or whether you're the only one that has the keys or not. So which means now that the elections, the integrity of the elections is actually in question, because there might actually be ways to manipulate the results because all of these locks were not actually implemented.
You had us standing here guaranteeing to the public and the world that even if fraud is committed, we would be able to trace it.
Yes, sir.
That was the principal guarantee that this would be an honest election.
Did the COMELEC conspire with SMARTMATIC to commit massive fraud by stealing democracy in the Philippines' first ever automated election? Sadly, these questions remain unanswered by the COMELEC to this day.